Tara had always believed beauty was a kind of power. The kind that opened doors, made people listen, made men stay. In a world ruled by pictures and screens, she had learned that beauty was no longer just a gift, it was a currency. And like everyone else chasing dreams in the city, she wanted to be rich in it. Every night after work, she scrolled endlessly through her phone, watching women with hourglass bodies flaunt their lives, their attention, the luxury, the endless love poured into their comments. Their curves were like magnets pulling every gaze. And in the quiet corners of her tiny room, Tara wished she could be like them. She wanted to be the one everyone noticed when she entered a room. She wanted to feel seen. For years she tried every trick, makeup, filters, waist trainers, diets. But none of it was enough. She was invisible in a world obsessed with perfection. Until one evening, when she saw an advertisement online promising the perfect shape, a BBL, a sculpted figure that would turn heads and change your life. The women in the photos looked like goddesses, confident and adored. Tara knew what she had to do. She saved for months, borrowing money from a local lender who charged her more than she could ever repay. She convinced herself it would all be worth it once she became famous. She pictured herself walking into parties with heads turning, her photos filling timelines, her followers growing by the thousands. She imagined love finally finding her. When the day of the surgery came, she was terrified but determined. The clinic was small, tucked away in a hidden part of town. The surgeon barely looked at her. But Tara ignored the unease. All she could see was the dream waiting on the other side. The operation was painful. When she awoke, everything hurt, her body, her mind, her hope. But she forced herself to look in the mirror. And then she screamed. One side of her hips sagged strangely, the other bulged too much. Her dream shape was distorted, unnatural. Her body looked uneven, almost grotesque. The surgeon disappeared 2 days later, leaving her with pain, bruises, and shame. Tara wrapped herself in baggy clothes and refused to leave the house. Every time she looked at herself, she felt mocked by the reflection staring back. Days turned into weeks, and despair turned into anger. She had done everything, sacrificed her peace, her money, even her body, all for attention that never came. And yet, no one cared. Alone in her room one stormy night, she whispered to herself that if beauty wouldn't come to her, she would find another way to summon it. In the deepest parts of the city, whispered rumors told of a woman who could give beauty that no surgeon could. Her name was Mama Ifon. People said she lived near the lagoon, a place where shadows seemed thicker and the air heavier. Tara searched until she found her, an old woman with cloudy eyes who seemed to see too much. That night, Tara left with a mirror wrapped in black cloth and a small jar of dark oil. The instructions were simple but chilling. She was to rub the oil over her body every night and look into the covered mirror, calling beauty to obey her. But the old woman's warning echoed in her head as she left, that the charm would only continue to do its work only if no one else set their eyes on the mirror, else the mirror spirits take her soul and she vanishes. The first morning after the ritual, something shifted. Tara felt it before she saw it. When she walked down the street, people looked at her, not with pity or judgment, but fascination. Men stared longer than they should have. Women whispered, confused. Even though her body was imperfect, she carried something irresistible, a strange magnetism that drew eyes and held them hostage. Online, her photos began to explode with attention. People couldn't explain why she looked so different, so alluring. She called herself the Queen of Confidence, and soon her following multiplied. Brands began reaching out, money started flowing, and the same people who once ignored her now wanted to be close. The envy she had craved was finally hers. But beneath the admiration, something darker was happening. Her reflection began to behave oddly. Sometimes, when she walked past mirrors, her reflection didn't move at the same time. Sometimes it smiled when she didn't. At first, she thought it was fatigue, but soon the unease became impossible to ignore. Late at night, she noticed her shadow stretching across the floor even when there was no light. It moved slightly, like it was breathing. She told herself it was her imagination, that all this was the price of success. Yet, the charm demanded more. The more she was adored, the more restless her reflection became. Every time someone praised her online, her shadow seemed to twitch with hunger. And every time someone criticized her, she felt a deep, burning ache in her chest, like something inside her was dying. Other women began to notice. They couldn't understand how Tara had become the center of attention overnight. They had better faces, better figures, and still, the world seemed to orbit around her. Jealousy spread quietly, and with it, fear. Some of her old friends whispered that Tara had made a dark deal, that she had traded something human for what she now possessed. Curiosity grew like a slow infection among the women who had once admired Tara. Her sudden transformation, her unexplainable pull, her growing power over men, it no longer seemed natural. They whispered among themselves that no woman could rise that fast without something dark behind her. And so, one humid night, 3 of her closest friends, Tammy, Biola, and Sword, decided to uncover the truth for themselves. They waited until Tara left for one of her brand events, then quietly let themselves into her apartment. The moment they stepped inside, a chill swept through them. The air was thick, sweet, and perfumed, yet it felt wrong, like the scent was hiding something rotten underneath. Candles burned low in every corner, their flames swaying as though disturbed by unseen hands. The place didn't look lived in anymore. It looked washed. They wandered deeper in silence until they reached Tara's bedroom, a place once bright and full of color, now draped in shadow. On her vanity table sat the mirror, wrapped in black silk, pulsing faintly, almost breathing. The air around it shimmered, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Biola stepped closer. The hum coming from it was barely audible, but it crawled into their bones. She reached out to lift the cloth, but before her fingers touched it, the temperature dropped. Their reflection in the nearby window began to move, even though none of them had moved at all. Then came the sound of heels in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, echoing. Nora was back. The women froze. The door creaked open, and the scent of incense thickened. What happened next would never be fully known, because none of them could ever describe it the same way. They remembered the mirror uncovering itself, the silk sliding off as if pulled by invisible fingers. They remembered seeing multiple reflections of Tara stepping into the room, not one, but 3 of her, each moving with a slightly different expression. One smiling sweetly, one weeping, and one grinning with teeth too sharp to be real. The glass began to ripple like water, and shadows crawled out from it, wrapping around Tara's legs and pulling her closer to her own reflection. The women tried to scream, but their voices were swallowed by the sound of whispering, dozens of voices, all chanting her name. By dawn, the 3 friends were seen stumbling out of the building, pale and trembling, unable to speak. Their eyes were wide open, but they looked empty, like something inside them had been erased. After that night, Tara was never seen again. Her social media accounts went silent for a week, then suddenly, a new post appeared. It was a photo of her standing by the window, but something was wrong. Her body looked distorted, stretched in ways that didn't match the background. Her reflection in the glass was clearer than her real face, its smile wider, more knowing. And those eyes, cold, vacant, yet somehow aware, stared directly at whoever looked long enough. Some claimed that the photo moved slightly when you stared at it too long. Others said they saw their own faces glitch behind hers. Then, Tara disappeared completely. Her apartment was sealed off, her phone lines disconnected, and her brand partnerships deleted her name quietly from their pages. The stories grew until Tara became more legend than memory. They said she had been pulled into her own reflection, trapped inside the mirror she once used to summon desire. Now she lived within it, feeding on the attention of those who couldn't stop staring at themselves. Mama Ifen, the voodoo woman who had started it all, vanished soon after. Her hut by the lagoon was found empty, her charms scattered, and her footprints leading into the water, as though the tide itself had swallowed her. But her curse lived on.